Welcome to our online video series, Reading Hope in Trying Times. Our guest today is Pam Perry. Pam's an award-winning communications professional. She teaches and mentors authors, speakers, and entrepreneurs on how to build a platform and attract major media and publishing contracts. She's also the publisher of Speakers Magazine and co-founder of Digital Business Acceleration. She's been called a PR guru by Publishers Weekly, featured in many major publications and on more than 100 radio and TV programs. Pam also has a 20-year career in marketing, public relations, and journalism in Detroit, including working at the Detroit Free Press. Pam's worked with many nonprofit organizations like the Charles A. Wright Museum of African American History and the Detroit Area Agency on Aging. She's author of Synergy Energy, How to Use the Power of Partnerships to Market Your Book, Grow Your Business, and Brand Your Ministry. I love that title. We're very glad to have Pam with us here today. Thanks for joining us, Pam.
Thank you, Brian. Thanks for having me. This is such a good idea and so needed, like we were talking before. Really, thank you so much.
Oh, well, certainly. I mean, I had to cancel 5 conferences this spring, so I needed something else to do. So I felt like doing this interview series with some of my speakers was like one of the best, replacements.
Yes, it is. It is. And we get one-on-one time with you. So that's good.
Well, that's the other thing. It's like during a conference, we're all so busy running around and there's so many people that it really is hard to have, an in-depth one-on-one conversation. So I'm thankful for that side effect of this.
Good.
So maybe you could start by just sharing some of your thoughts on, what we're going through, what the impact that you've seen it to be, and what you think is going to be, some of the long-term implications of it.
Whew. This pandemic has been something that we have never seen before. Unprecedented is what people are saying. We hardly ever used that word before, right? But it is definitely unprecedented. And one of the hardest parts, besides the deaths of people, Detroit is a hot spot, and African Americans are 40% of those deaths. So I definitely know people who personally have died from this pandemic, from this coronavirus, Rona or COVID-19, whatever they want to call it. It's vicious. And it didn't really, the first person that I knew that actually died from it was only 43 years old.
Wow.
Was like a hero in Detroit. He was a Detroit booster team, just such a team person, and did a lot of good things. He did his name was Marlo Studemeyer, and Marlo did a lot of things for the city that when people thought it was down and out, and he just always kept hope. And it was like, no, Detroit is coming back. He would rally people together. He did an exhibit for the Detroit 67 riots that got national attention to really bring the awareness about race relations in Detroit, where we were then and where we are now. So it was really a shock. And it was the beginning of many. When I would scroll through Facebook, I would stop and I would see a picture of a friend, and then I would see where they would say, rest in peace.
Oh boy.
And it continued like that, to the point where just like I was scared to look on Facebook. I was scared to check texts. When friends who hadn't called me in a long time would call me, I would be scared to answer the phone. It was really like, what is going on? And so as far as like just feeling shell-shocked, I can't figure out like what it is that we can do. Because people who are even like diagnosed, you can't go see them. So my cousin, security guard at a hospital, he has it. We can't go see him.
Wow.
We can't call them. It's that sort of thing, like, okay, or they're just sick and you just want to hug them, or they say they're on a ventilator, you want to be there to pray with them. And that's the hardest part, besides them just totally leaving this earth, the fact that you can't be with them while they're ill and when they're really down. That's the hardest part. Or just even thinking people who are in nursing homes, you can't go by and see them because they depend on you. Now, my mother was in a nursing home last year, and I can't imagine, she passed. I can't imagine her being in the nursing facility and I couldn't go see her. I mean, she wouldn't even, she had dementia, Alzheimer's, so she wouldn't really understand like why I wasn't coming to see her. She wouldn't understand probably why people had masks on or why they have on gloves. She wouldn't, it would just, and so she's just one, right? So what about all the other Alzheimer patients who can't see their families, who can't understand why people have those masks on? I mean, it's just got to be terrifying. So I think about that. And so it's like, I don't know. And then, for me, after my mom passed last year, a few weeks later, my dad passed. He was 90. And I'm thinking, if he were here, because he had caregivers, and then I couldn't go see him in and out. I would either have to have him, because you can't go back and forth with people, with this pandemic of social distancing. You can't just like, oh, I'm going to see you today and then I'm going to see you next week. I'm just thinking, like, how are people figuring this out with their senior parents, senior loved ones? My in-laws, we haven't seen them. We used to see them every Sunday. We haven't seen them in like 4 weeks. And it's really hard because you love them. My father-in-law is 90. My mother-in-law is 89. They're in good health, but we want to see them. So we would go by and we would drop food off like on the porch. It's like, here you go. Here's some groceries. Here you go. It's like just waving. It's like, hi. But you can't go in and see them and talk with them and hug them, which is kind of like weird. And even with my daughter, she lives in an apartment and we can't really visit her like we normally would. So it's just, people say, oh, I really miss going to Starbucks, or I miss getting my hair done, or I miss getting my nails. I miss my family. Miss my family. That's really the hard part. You just miss your family. And you could FaceTime, and even the younger part of our family, even my in-laws, we were on Zoom. So we had like a little Zoom. Anniversary, we had our 25th anniversary. Basically, we were doing some video like, hey, me and Mark, we did like a little interview, and his birthday came up again. It's like a Zoom party. It's like, okay, so we're getting used to different things, but doesn't replace physically being there, but we're making the best of it. And that's what you do. You just make the best of it. And, his birthday was kind of different. It was like everybody had a piece of cake and we enjoyed it over the internet, and we all looked at each other on the computer. And even my in-law, even my father-in-law, 90 years old and 89, they were kind of like peeking on the camera. They kept getting bumped off or had the camera the wrong way, but they were still there. They were doing it.
That's great.
That was it.
Great. So you work with quite a few authors. How have you seen it affect, the business side of things?
Because I work from home, and a lot of my clients I don't see them personally. We still do coaching and that sort of thing online. So that part really hasn't changed. It has really made them become more serious about some of the things that we've been telling them to do that they need to do online, getting their systems together, really understanding a little bit more about social media, how to communicate more with their email list, podcasting. That's something they said, maybe I'll start that now. You've mentioned that before. Mm-hmm. Yeah, let's do that. So a lot of things digitally, they have really see the reason why. So their digital assets are being bumped up because they realize that, I can't speak, at a live event in person. So what can I do in the interim? What is it that can replace it? And kind of like what we're doing, we're doing video conferencing, where we're doing that. So they're learning that. And then we were talking before how you have to step up your editing game, and you have to step up things that you're doing online. So before, when you were like, oh, well, it's not really that important because really my best game is like being in front of people. Well, we can't do that right now. So you have to figure something else out. So you're not going to be in front of people, and you can't interact at a vendor booth. So what do? You don't have a vendor booth. You don't have an exhibit. You don't have, you can't sell books at the back of the table or at the back of the room from a table. You can't have people sign books. So you've got to figure out alternative ways. And podcasting is really big now. So I've been setting up a lot of podcasts for a lot of my authors. A lot of them are getting some training in terms of Facebook Lives, how to really do them effectively, how to market and promote them effectively, and social media. They've just realized that this is, and I just did a podcast about this, about putting the social back in social media. It was social networking, not social media marketing. It was social networking first before it became marketing. And so when I said that, and they were like, what do you mean? I said, well, who are you talking to online? I mean, just reach out Schedule a phone call. Talk to them, their comment back and forth. Don't just post and ghost. Really, don't just collect LinkedIn connections. Connect with them. And before we were so busy, didn't have time, just posting and ghosting, connecting and just keeping it going. But now it's like, you know what? Yes, we're home. Let's schedule a call. Let's talk. And so that's been different for a lot of them to really understand that if I only have 200 people on my Facebook page, who are those 200 people? They're following me. They've liked my Facebook page, but let me go look at them. Let me go friend them, because they may not necessarily be your friends. Let me go friend them. Let me see what they're about on their page. Wow, you'll find out they actually live in the same city, or they actually you can even go dig further and say, wow, they actually know some of the same people. I should probably reach out and talk to them. And that's been like a discovery for people to understand the networking part of social media. It's social networking for real. And one of the things, Brian, that has been the most, and maybe it's because I've known some people have passed from COVID-19, but people who continue to market so strong in this pandemic, it really irritates me. And I actually gone on to a couple of gentlemen's streams or lives or whatever, and just told them, I said, this is really unempathetic about what's going on.
Yeah,
I
now's
said,
not
nobody
the
really,
right time to be pushy.
yeah. I was like, do you not understand what's going on in the world? And, some people were like, oh, you shouldn't be afraid to sell. It's not that I'm not afraid to sell. It's that you've got to just address the issues that people are dealing with right now. Some people haven't been to work in many, many weeks. So, for me, for Speakers Magazine, I made the advertorials 50% off. Okay. There's certain things that you just have to do. I'm not, in my podcast, we were always talking about marketing, but now we're talking about other things that people are going through. I said, just listen. And so that's been like the main thing I've really been looking at. It's like, they don't get it. And no one is going to, well, like I said, I'm still coaching my clients, but I'm coaching them about what to do now. Like what it is that you need to do now. They're thinking like, well, I normally post about relationships and how to make them better and this and that or whatever. I said, well, you can still do that in the context of what's going on right now. So how do you make your relationships better when you are in quarantine with someone 24/7 that you aren't getting along well with, maybe 8 hours a day? Now you're with them 24/7. So let's talk about that. So I said, you just have to really understand. Just when I pitch people to media, I said, you can't pitch something that is so irrelevant when the news media is talking about something else. And then here you are like, oh, well, I'm selling these new chocolate chip cookies. And to me, it's like, they don't have a clue. They don't have a clue about what's going on in the world. Why would anybody care? And so I just want people to know that you have to care what's going on and care about people. That's the main two things. And be empathetic when you have marketing messages and understand that people are going through some really tough stuff, I can't even imagine. Now I work from home and I have been, but my daughter is older. I can't imagine what it's like to work from home and I had a toddler or two or three.
Both of my daughters are in that situation right now.
I pray for them.
I can't imagine.
It's just hard because how do you they don't understand. They don't understand what's going on. So a toddler needs attention right now, and you have to work, and it's like that's never happened before.
It's really difficult.
Yes.
So you said that there are a number of folks that are starting out podcasts, right during kind of this period of time. What are you advising them in terms of how you launch the marketing for such a thing?
Yeah, right now they're trying to figure out the equipment and all that, making sure the sound is right, making sure that they're on the right platform. Their message is basically the same as when they would speak live. Okay, it's always inspirational, it's motivational, it's usually information from their books. And really getting their covers together, but really just talking about why they're launching it, because they still want to speak to and get their message out. It's just the quickest way for people to do it. So it's really like the same. It's like they would launch a book that, like it's a financial book. So a pastor has a financial book that he's working on and a podcast that he wants to. So basically talking about how to, during the pandemic, what type of steps you should be doing. So yeah, it's about what they're doing, but like in the situation, what you should do now.
Yeah.
So for instance,
yeah,
making it relevant so that people want to hear it. So for instance, maybe a year ago, he was talking one thing about what to do with your finances, but obviously what's going on now, you do something else. So he had a podcast that was going to talk about what to do with the stimulus money that you get, the $1,200 that you get. What's the best way to use that? Do you go and buy a lot of groceries? Do you go buy a lot of toilet paper? It's like,
there you go.
That's
what half the country's doing, I think, isn't it?
Let me tell you, because we can't find any, right? The hand sanitizer.
We can't either.
Oh my! I'm like, what is up that? So he just kind of like, okay, so he does a faith-based financial mentor, and he does all finances. But during this time, people want to know, what do you do with your finances now? So just really more or less like, okay, this is a way to get the message out there now based on what people are going through. And so I think everybody needs to.
That sounds very timely. There's a lot of people being interested in that right now.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, because I think it's, things are stopping and people are pausing. I think they're thinking things through, but also to a lot of things they had on the back burner, they're putting them on the front, which is a good thing. Because it's like, okay, when is it ever going to come off the back burner? If it's not the time now for it to bring it off the back burner. So now is the time. The books that you want to write, the programs that you want to start, the events you want to plan next year. How do you plan that? There's a lot of things that were on the back burner that they can bring forward. The podcast has always been on the back burner. They never knew when was the right time. Well, this is the right time, right?
Sure,
because,
sure.
well, someone asked me what was a podcast not too long ago. They asked me what was a podcast. And I said, a podcast is like radio on demand. It's where you can hear your favorite talk show anytime you want. I said, it's like Netflix, but audio. And they were like, okay.
Those are great ways to describe it.
Yeah. I mean, you can listen to it, and you don't have to listen to it always on Apple Podcasts. There's Google Play, there's Stitcher, there is SoundCloud, there's Spreaker, there's Podbean, there's Libsyn. There's so many places that distribute it, that even YouTube. I've seen some podcasts on YouTube where you can just listen to it. But I said it's everywhere, but it's so handy. You can watch it anywhere. And a lot of people, when I used to travel before this pandemic, right, on the airplane, that's what I would catch up on all my podcasts on the airplane. It's just one of those things. So a lot of people say, well, what is a podcast? It's just like, it came from the word iPod a long time ago when the iPods were the thing. And then they turned it into podcasts because it was not just music, but it was audio talk. So then it became a podcast. It's like a show. And the difference is it can be interviews or it could be straight. Sometimes some podcasts are like 10 minutes. And that's fine. It's just like little informational bits. So really easy to do. Some platforms are free and some you pay for. But I always tell people to make sure that you own your own, before getting RSS feed, that you actually don't put it on someone else's platform, that you own your own RSS feed and it runs through your website. Then distribute it out.
Cool. So one of the things we've been talking about during these interviews is how God has helped us through trying times in the past. So is there anything along those lines that you'd like to share?
Yeah, I told my husband, I said, the scripture says that the peace that passes all understanding has been like the one that really keeps me. And I can't imagine what it's like not to have God in your life, not to know Jesus. But I think during this, I really found that I'm sure that he is real because the peace that I have, no matter what has happened, has what kept me. And in any major situation, I just know that that's one of the things where I know the Lord talks to me about. So when my mom died, even though I was really hurt, sad, it was a peace I felt. My dad was spoken to verbally, just knew. He kind of just said, it's going to be okay. It was a peace. And it's like it just, and even during this pandemic, it's a peace. And there's nothing, you can't buy that. You can't manufacture that. Where does it come from? It says, my peace I leave with you. It's the peace. That's like one of the things. He's a prince of peace. So it's like, that is, I'm thinking like, what if people didn't know that? How are they handling that? What do they do? It just baffles me, and it just makes me realize that the message of the Lord, Jesus, God, peace, that's got to be something that as authors, speakers, we need to say more of, because people who don't have it, they're more in tune to listen to that now because of what's going on with the pandemic and COVID-19, so they can have that. So if someone who, so say you're a pastor and you are, say you're upset and irritated and you just feel like you're losing it, that's not a good witness, right? But if you have a peace, and like there's one pastor in Detroit, he is doing some wonderful things. He's giving out groceries. Mother's Day, he's going to give out a car to a mother that is in need, a mom that has lost her job and car or whatever. I mean, so you see the good things that he's doing. He's not falling apart, even though his church was a mega church. It's not a mega church anymore. People aren't there. But he's still doing things good. And it's like, okay, so that has to witness to people like, why does he still have his peace and joy? And he's doing good things. What is it about him? And he's drawing people to him. That's a good thing. Sometimes I think like it says, no matter what happened, there was a reason for something. If it was just to bring one person to Christ, that's it. That was that reason, because of what is going on and how he responded, then brought people to Christ. I said that's how God is. He'll just orchestrate a whole lot of things just for one person to bring them to him. And he was on Facebook talking about it. So, Facebook is not just Christians. So he's on Facebook every Sunday talking about, if you need groceries in Detroit, come to 7 Mile. No questions asked, no paperwork, whatever. Here are the groceries. They're all masked up in gloves, whatever. So he says, this is what we're doing. All for the month of March, all for the month of April. And then giving away a car on Mother's Day.
Wow.
That's a testimony, yeah. Right? It's like that's one of the things. So, you just look at like, well, is your messenger of hope, your messenger of peace, you trying to show people, that your word that you've been reading all your life is true. And even if it's, somebody says, I read the 91st Psalm, or whatever word it is that you have, if it's in your heart, that. You don't have to know the whole Bible. Just know a few that really speak to you, that keep you. So I always say, so what keeps you? What is the one that keeps you? It's the peace that passes all understanding. I remember that a couple of times. I mean, there's been some horrible things happen in my life. And it's always been that, you have a peace that passes all understanding, because I didn't understand it. And it's like, oh, okay. That's what that was. That wasn't me. That was God.
You can really tell that you've, taken that in and lived that, because, you're so calm, and, you can tell that peace really has, you're living it.
Yeah, it kept me. And it's been so many different things. I remember one time when my daughter was in an accident when she was a few months old. She wasn't even walking. And it was like something supernatural came over me of the peace, and how I didn't just lose it, It just, and even to this day, my husband, who's always calm, was like, I can't believe how calm you were. I don't know what happened. That was definitely God, because it definitely, in a normal situation without God, I would have just like lost it. So yeah, so it is. That's one of the ones. And just, when you think about it, it's like Jesus is the Prince of Peace. So if you don't have peace, you don't have him. So a lot of times you just got to get to know him more to have that. That's what he wants to leave with you. He's a comforter. So that's the main thing. All the other stuff is good. You know, we look at the material things. Material things can go, right? That stuff is irrelevant at this point. People want peace. If anything, they want peace.
So beyond the Bible, are there any particular resources, books, anything that you found to be particularly helpful during this time?
Oh my, yeah. Well, you know, it's like I said, the Facebook Live and the YouTube streaming and that sort of thing. I just really love Sarah Jakes Roberts. That's Bishop Jakes' daughter. She has a podcast. She's a millennial, and she has a TV show, you know, where she does. But I really just enjoy just going on YouTube. You know, when you watch one particular YouTube and then they'll suggest others. So I was watching Sarah Jakes Roberts, love her. Then I went to an old video, and I think everybody should look up Miles Monroe. So Dr. Miles Monroe had a YouTube video he did probably maybe 5-6 years ago. Couldn't learn that, but it talked about how to stay calm in a crisis or something like that. And when I watched that video, it was like he was speaking today. I was like, what?
That's very cool.
And for her, Dr. Miles Monroe, I think he's been deceased now. He died in a plane crash, maybe 3-4 years ago. And that video, I love video, right? It's saved there forever. So to watch him and to really explain things from Genesis, from the Bible, he always, if anybody knows anything about Dr. Miles Monroe, he's all about purpose, and he stays in the book of Genesis a lot. But he really explained about crisis situations. And that has really kept me in this. It was a series, you know, so one was like 1 hour, then another hour, you know, so that has been really, really helpful as well. I love that. The other thing too, you know, me and my husband, we weren't big TV watchers, you know, we would go to the movies. So we've been Netflixing, that sort of thing. We've been Netflixing old shows, things that make us laugh. The Cheers from way back in the day, right? And it was only because the theme song at the beginning of it, it's like you want to go where everybody knows your name. And we're like, oh, we can't go anywhere. So we kind of watch it and just looking at people gathering in the situation like in Cheers, right? And just looking at Shelley Long and Ted Dance. It's just been like just funny things. So the music is always upbeat. And so when you watch CNN in the evening or whatever, it's like the last thing we do is put on some Cheers. Okay, let's be nostalgic and watch something that's funny.
Something is just a complete departure from, you know, today's turmoil.
Yes. And then my daughter, who was not born when Friends was around, she's been binge watching Friends. So that's an old retro show too.
Sure.
Yeah, you know, where people are gathering together and yeah, because you can't do that now, right? So, you know, I don't know if I were into sports, how I would really feel about right now. I mean, I was not into any sports, but if you liked March Madness, definitely basketball, baseball, all gone. So I hear a lot of people say that they're watching like the classics shows. I mean, but you know who's going to win? Doesn't that take the fun out of it?
One of the things that I've found is that, you know, my wife and I start watching more esoteric sports that we don't see as much, you know, like skiing or curling or there's one that we saw that was like, you know, motorcycle racing across all of these, you know, mountains and all that kind of stuff. So,
yeah,
you know, again, it's just a complete departure from, you know, what you might normally be watching. But
Right. Yeah, that's the thing. You discover new things.
It's helpful in these times.
Yeah. You take a pause from your normal to look around to see what's new, and you really can discover some different things that you just never enjoy. One of the things I have so many pictures, and so part of it I've been going through a lot of photo albums, and so I'll take a picture of the photo and I'll text it to a friend or a relative, and it's like, remember this? And so that's been fun. So we've been texting pictures back and forth and just remembering times or remembering people who have gone on, to be with the Lord, and says, oh, remember when grandma, and oh, this was the one picture. My husband said, this is one picture where both my grandmas we took a picture together when they graduated from college. He found that picture and said, it's the only picture.
Wow.
But we took the time to go through the pictures to find it.
That's good.
Yeah. So that's been kind of good, just knowing that during this time, 6 weeks, whatever, 8 weeks, whatever, taking a pause, but just know that we have so many more memories too, as well. This period of time is not going to be like what we remember as fun times, but go back and look at the memories that you had. I mean, you had some really good ones. So reflect on those. Those are good. People who you can share those memories with, that's what you do. And that really, I did that in like the first couple of weeks of quarantine or lockdown or whatever you want to call it. I've spent some time really going through some pictures, and that's been fun, and organizing them because they were all over the place.
One of those other things that you've been putting off, right? And now is the time to do it.
Yes. It's like, okay, let's organize these things now.
That's my wife's been doing
find them. Yes.
Well, Pam, it's sure been fun to talk with you. As we were saying earlier, if we were together in person at a conference with 100 other people, we wouldn't have this time to chat. So I'm really glad that we were able to do that today. Yes,
thank you. This has been a really good idea. It really been helpful for me as well. I really do.
It's what I've noticed, just haven't, been able to take the time to talk with people as much as I should have. And this is forcing me to do it, which is really nice.
Yeah, that is good. That is good. I like this. And so many people, if they have books and things like that, this was the other thing I did too. So, we both love books, right? So a lot of books that I've read that I thought were really, really good books, I've took them and I packaged them up. I texted a friend and said, what's your address? And I did some mailings. So I did some mailings of some books that I read that I thought might be helpful for them during this time, of books that I enjoy. Mostly they were nonfiction, but there were some fiction books as well, Christian fiction books as well that I sent. And they got them and said, this is great. I really love this, And this was like at the beginning of, this is about a couple of weeks ago. So I'm thinking like, I could do another round now. They probably read those books by now.
My wife's done the same thing. Because she's got a whole ton of books that she's read, and she's shipped some of them away.
Yes. So now it's kind of like, okay, we got another package. We got another shipment we've got to do. So I do go to the post office. I mask up, put on the gloves, and appreciate all the healthcare workers and all the essential workers of what they're doing. It's really amazing.
Isn't that the case?
Yeah.
We owe them big time now, don't we?
Yes, we really do. It really is. Yeah. So, yeah.
All right. Well, thanks again, Pam. It was so great talking with you. And then hopefully before we know it, we will be back in person at one of the conferences together. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yes, that'll be good. And it'll be in Milwaukee, right? Is that the one where?
Yes, October.
Good. Yes, because I told a lot of people in Milwaukee, well, I'll see you then. So we'll see you then.
Hopefully we'll be then.
All righty.
All right. Thanks again. Take care. Bye-bye.
All right, you too. Bye-bye.